our courses online. Particularly difficult for discussion classes and our lab classes, but everyone has a little blurb to prepare, and then there'll be time for questions. So I think the format that might work best is for you guys to present what you want to say, and then we'll ask questions at the end, okay, because it might be covered by another presentation. So thank you all for coming. I'm glad we're mostly practicing our social distancing. So I think we're running the so welcome and thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. So my name is Ann Zielinski, Associate Dean at University College, primary responsibility for distance and online education. And my job today is super easy. I'm just going to make a few remarks about the context of this, which everyone really understands. They're kind of encouraging remarks, I'm hoping, and then I'll turn it over to the people who are the experts in the actual matter of putting things online. So really my advice is to muddle through and keep it as simple as possible. What you're doing is not developing a class from the ground up. That would take you months. You're doing the best you can in an emergency situation. And so you have to be patient with yourselves. We're calling this teaching in a virtual environment rather than using online because it's really important for us in our mission to distinguish between what we're doing to respond to COVID-19 to what we normally do with state-of-the-art online teaching. Keep it simple and really accessible. There are going to be accessibility issues, and that's going to be something we're going to have to be sensitive to and react to on the fly. We have a lot of resources for you. Between our office, staff in the Office of Teaching, Learning and Technology, and the Center for Teaching, we're all available. We've told all of our staff that we're going to deploy them to whatever corner of the campus needed to help and support. So please don't suffer silently. Tell your students, really importantly, tell your students what to expect. There's a lot of anxiety. I was in a Zoom meeting today about students, and they're very anxious. So tell them what to expect as soon as you can and reassure them that somehow this will work out. There are many systems on campus being rethought. We're just studying sort of how to make this work for students so they don't lose credit, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, there's a really nice article in the Chronicle today called How to Make Your Online Pivot Less Brutal. It's just a really nicely written little piece, and it contains a lot of good advice from someone who has taught both online and face-to-face. But his main point is good teaching is good teaching, regardless of the medium. It requires, good pedagogy requires regular, effective, compassionate communication with students, flexibility to adapt to change, and transparency in course materials. And so we really want everyone to just focus on the simplest way to accomplish those three things, and we have a lot of support. So with that, I will turn it over to Starby. Okay.
So, Antoinette Beckton, I'm the Director of Operational Services for University College. Previously, many of you people probably know me as the icon person and lecture capture. I've made a move to University College. However, we have lots of people here from distance and online education. We have people here from OTIL, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And then I think we're going to start with testing and proctoring because that seems to be the biggest concern. And then we'll stop after that, and then we'll do questions, and then we'll go into Zoom and Panopto and some icon stuff. So, do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Laura?
I'm Laura Sin, and I'm the Director of Online Course Administration, and I work in distance and online.
My name is Monica Cook. I'm a faculty support coordinator for our online courses.
And then I'm Mike Leslie. I work in Office Teaching, Learning, and Technology.
So we're going to tag team this, and be patient with us because this is all happening really fast for us too. We don't have a super canned presentation for you. But like I said, we're going to start with proctoring, so we're going to pass it to Laura right now.
So we received a lot of requests for exam proctoring in our office. I've probably responded to about 65 people so far to say thanks for your inquiry. Wish I could give you an answer. So while we have been able to secure funding for Proctorio for on-campus courses that need proctoring support, I don't want everybody to just jump to and assume that that's really the best solution for their courses, because Proctorio is a good tool, but it comes with a set of challenges that if you're not familiar with it, there's like a learning curve for the students and for faculty. We provide a lot of support for our distance and online instructors. We build their exams, we set up the Proctorio settings for them, we help review their exam results because we found that there are a lot of false positives, and those are all services that we are just simply not able to provide for the number of students and courses that are on the campus. So What we are hoping people will do, or really encouraging people to do, is to think really hard about their assessments. Is there another way that you can accomplish it? I mean, you know, again, we know it's not ideal maybe. You would prefer to have your students in a proctored environment where you can see exactly what's happening, but there might be some other options that'll work for you. We have a handout in the back that kind of talks about the different assessments and activities in your courses on campus and how you might be able to accomplish those things online. It has several items on it. If you're one of the 65 or 70 people that wrote me on Monday, I'm going to share that out with everyone, and also some more information about Proctorio. And we have some resources that we have created for instructors and for students. Those resources are really going to be like modules that if you look through these suggestions and you say, no, I really have to have this proctor exam, but I understand Proctorio is going to be time consuming or whatever, I'm willing to learn it, to do it, to whatever, then we'll put Proctorio in your course. We will enable it for you. We can put a module in there that is hidden from students and it has instructions for faculty. We can put a module in there that is for students that you can publish that tells them what to do. And then we can help troubleshoot as needed. But it really is going to be a lot different level of support than what we do for our online courses, just out of necessity. So some of the things, you know, Proctorio is a really good tool. But what we found is that it's very time consuming to review the results. There are a lot of false positives. And if you don't review the exam recordings, we have step-by-step instructions to do that, prepared for everybody. But if you don't do that, then it really is the same as not having proctoring at all. So if they really think about what kind of, you know, how much time you can commit to.
Well, there are two different aspects. Are they looking at notes during the test? But there's also, is it the person taking the test?
So
Is there a way that we could just have the verification of the person taking the test without necessarily doing the notes?
Could make it open book, open note, and then just have the verification at the beginning, and then all you would have to really look at is if the, you know, just compare those IDs at the beginning. Yep, that is the way you would do it.
But understand we're in unprecedented territory here, so we can't stop students completely from cheating. Even with Proctorio, they might still have other devices. With Proctorio, if they have a webcam, it's less likely they're going to do that. But we don't know this body of students if they all have laptops and webcams available to them. So we're trying to be realistic about the, you know, making sure it's them. Of course we want it to be them, but yeah, I think scanning their ID and uploading it might be a good idea.
Annette, isn't it true that there's some studies that say if you put like the first question of the test as I will not cheat, that is psychologically critical?
Yes. In fact, there was an article, I can't remember where it was today, but, and it seems like it's a simple little thing, but at least they stop for a minute and think about, oh, I don't know if they're checking on me or not. So yeah, you could add a good idea, Lance. You could add a question right at the beginning. I'm not cheating. I understand the university's academic integrity policies. You know, like I said, we're not going to be able to record everything.
Adding to that, I was thinking about if we were to put questions that students could answer fairly quickly, that only they should know. So, but I don't know, like, you know, what high school did you attend? And essentially for certain things, in terms of looking how much time they spend on a question or so forth. So do we know, like, in terms of what types of questions I'd be allowed to ask there?
Yeah, that's tough because those are, but
Right,
it's only
so I
going
didn't
to
know.
you and you're all
Yes.
purpose certified, so,
Right.
you know, I mean, you don't ask a deep dark person.
No,
question.
no,
If
but-
I have to ask her where I went to high school, I'm probably cheating. I would check with the FERPA guidelines that are in the policies, but yeah, that's another idea. It's something that only they would know.
Right. But have those kind of scattered throughout a little bit.
But you don't know. So you would just be counting on how long
But
it takes
it's
to
the
do it.
illusion.
It's the illusion.
Oh, I'm like, okay.
It's the illusion, or it's the time that they spend on that question to answer it.
Yeah.
If they take 30 minutes to figure out what high school they went to, that's an issue.
There's a problem, right?
So what scale would you say that is number of students that proctorial essentially become not useful?
Well, I have proctors who are trained at reviewing proctorial results, and when they're reviewing a course with 200 students, it can take them a full day, and they're used to using it. So, because there are that many false positives, sometimes it's
Well, that's
a
my
simple.
understanding.
Yeah.
So if I'm willing to give up 2 or 3 days with a legion of TAs we train up, we could handle 300.
You could, we could show you, we have step-by-step instructions.
You could also lessen the settings. I mean, we have proven default settings that Laura said, but you as a faculty member could say, you know, I don't care, I'm not gonna flag for that, and you could change those settings.
Well, I have complexity in that they need a piece of paper, they need a calculator, they need a pencil.
So those things do make it a lot harder, because, you know, then you can't use, you know, they can look away from the screen, and so that's gonna be really high, so you'd have to take that off. So really,
They
maybe,
can't allow that, yeah.
yeah, maybe you would just want to, they have to look away from the screen. The other problem with using Proctorio, as you say, with the scratch paper and the pencil. Now, Proctorio has a whiteboard. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, that's not gonna be useful for students that have to work a problem.
It's not. That's what I was just, yep. And so we have some courses that's absolutely all they need and it's perfect. And it's probably not your course. When it is something they have to really work through something complicated, you can't do that with the mouse on a whiteboard on the screen. So as soon as you say they can have the piece of paper and a pencil and a calculator down here, then you really can't see what they're doing when they're looking away all the time. So it's gonna flag. You know, maybe for that course, you could just say, I want to verify the student's ID at the beginning. I want to, and then you'll get a lot of false positives from that because they'll be like a glare, and it's just the time to look at it. If you take the time to look at it, you'll still be able to see, no, that's really Robert or whatever, and you'll feel fine about it. You could, you know, flag it for noise in the room, but then you'll even find sometimes, depending on like the machine that the student's using, typing an answer, the sound of the keyboard can be picked up and it'll show like false positives for sounds in the room. So,
Another thing you could do to show their work, I know it's not ideal, but you know, we're not in ideal times, is most students have cell phones. You don't want their cell phone out next to the test, but when they're done at the very end, you could have them take an image of their work on the paper, have them sign the bottom of it before they send you a photo and have them upload it into assignment. That way you can see that it's their work and they're signing their signature. That's just another checkpoint where they're given the illusion that you are watching. So
Well,
that's
could they
another
hold it
idea.
up to the camera?
They could do that, yep.
I'd rather not have the cell phone out at all.
right.
Yeah, but it's hard to,
Right, my calculator. Okay.
Can I just mention something? I meant to ask you all, I think we should have you a tiny little Qualtrics survey or something so you do know what technology your students have. And I know right now, students can test in a lot of different environments, but if we don't end up coming back at the April 6th date, or if this extends farther, we're going to have to really think differently about assessing students, because some students will not be able to access the same level of technology, whether it's a phone or even a camera. I mean, we do have students who are disadvantaged. And so I think even if this works in the short run, and I think it's a great tool, it really is, but it may not last us through the whole rest of the term, depending on where things go. Which
another
is
thing
just
to
something
think,
to tuck in your mind. No, go ahead.
another thing to think about is let's pretend for 1 minute that they're allowed to come back to campus, but they have to work out of their dorm rooms. You know, any of the Proctorio stuff, it's really meant for a single person to sit down if they've got a roommate that's dinking around with the TV on, so you just have to consider all those things. We're not to that point yet, but it's something to think in the back of your head, what if? So,
Will there be any capability for the testing center to handle students that are in town and don't have the equipment?
So I just heard today that we are going to have the test center. The plan now is to keep the test center open and to change the capacity of the room to 20 instead of 48, which is what we have right now in our new test center and chemistry building. And so the plan right now is that we'll have that. We have had students use Proctorio, take Proctorio exams there. We have a couple of spaces that are especially good for that. And we do have spaces in our office set aside that we can allow students to use too. So if they're local and you have Proctorio exams, we do have some spaces set up. Now,
Well, if they're local and it's monitored, they can just take the regular paper exam.
Right.
except you can't bring them together to take it, right? Oh, at our test.
At your test center.
Right.
I'll do it in waves.
In contrast, the College of Medicine had a meeting yesterday, late yesterday, and they're gonna do, their testing, their proctoring with students of 5. That's all their college will let them do, so they're not gonna have 20, they have 5, so they're just gonna filter them in one after another.
It's slightly lower at home.
Yes, they do,
Right.
yes.
So we have two, just to give you an idea of capacity, we have 2 rooms that are set up for this, and 20 students each. And so, I don't know how many students you guys have, and your courses.
Yeah, so like, and that would be like even while they're going, you could schedule them while they're supposed to be gone, or that has to be after the date's in April?
It's, during the period that you're not having live classes meet,
You
you
could have,
can use the test center.
But
That's-
then
would assume that they're back in town.
I would assume.
Yeah, yes, they don't have to come back.
they don't have to come back here yet, they're gonna be home.
So now
Nope,
you have
totally
a problem with a student that's rural, their internet connection is weak, and they don't have a camera.
Yeah.
Proctorio
And
will
that's
not
the
work.
reason that we're really, really encouraging faculty to think about other ways of assessing their students' learning if possible. Because there are some serious,
If their internet is weak, how are we gonna access other than them mailing us? I mean, if their internet is weak, we already have problems with our textbook program that we use, where students get kicked off on good internet. We have students who have trouble with Icon all the time, with good internet. If their internet is weak, how are we gonna do this other than having us mail us stuff?
Or if they find out that that's an excuse, and then they say,
And that will happen.
yeah, well, that's good, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And are we confident that we can have like 3 of our classes running tests on Icon simultaneously, 3 of our big classes running tests on Icon simultaneously, and it's not gonna hold it down? Because I know the gradebook functions really poorly the week of finals.
right?
Yeah, that's specific to the way they've written the grade book in Icon. There are usually issues at the end of the semester, but it's almost always with the grade book. And they're supposed to be revising the grade book, well, they were supposed to this summer, we'll see where that goes. But, Canvas or Instructure, the company that owns Canvas, has said they've upped it, because they're in the cloud, they're using Amazon, but again, there's thousands now of schools using the same technology. So I think we're in sort of unprecedented territory here.
No, I can't stand here and say, yep.
Yeah, I can't say, oh, sure. One other thing you can do is break an exam down into more palatable Icon quizzes. Again, you're not gonna prevent them from working with each other or using their cell phones, but I know that, there's somebody in the College of Business who does that, and he purposely did that, and he split his exam up into different Icon quizzes, and he's just letting them do an open book. And his philosophy is that, well, if it's an open book, they're still looking at the material. So, and he said that's worked out pretty well. He did that pre-COVID-19, so
So
there's an
some
idea.
Some things you can do, and you guys may very well know about these things, but you can still have your students take their exam, or their quizzes or exams at the same time during your regular class times. You can make them tightly timed, so they may have time to look at some resources, but they won't have time to really look up a lot of answers. I'm not saying these are the best answers, but they're options. And you can also, I lost my train of thought. Question banks, thank you, sorry. Question banks, so it, randomly pull from a bank of questions, and you can randomize the correct answer, and it can be in a random order. So, there are some measures that you can take to help make it more difficult for students.
And right now, there are, and I sent this link to Maggie Canova yesterday, there's a lot of schools sharing resources out, and they're just like, take my stuff. So, it could be that you could find a big chunk of questions that you could beg, borrow, and steal and have some, but of course, that's not gonna be the same as the class from your lecture for the whole semester, I realize that, but there are resources out there for that kind of stuff too. Another thing you could do, which again is not ideal, is change your assessment to having them watch some simulation or video and have them write a subjective paper, but that's more work for you to upload the,
We cannot do
read them
this
all,
in the
that's for
physics
600
exam.
students, that's almost crazy.
No, you cannot do this in physics exam. You have
Right.
problems, you have to solve it.
Yep.
Math and.
But you could have them take their photo on their cell phone and upload their,
Anyway, somebody from our department did this, what we talked before, for 300 students. Last year when he was on sabbatical, it worked apparently very well, so he wrote me an email. That's why I emailed you.
Yeah.
Can I do the same thing, but,
Was that for a distance and online course?
yeah.
So he had a lot more support. That's why I'm hesitant. It's not that I don't want to share our resources, it's that they're pretty limited and there's a lot of students on this campus and a lot of instructors are writing for help.
I don't mind looking all these pictures, videos, etc., make my own judgment, and I trust my students as well on top of it. Because they will be mostly medical doctors, right? Pre-medical and so on.
Right.
And if I don't trust them, I'll never trust my treatment. So I can take that responsibility provided you can provide this environment, so.
So at the end of this, no, not today, honestly. Monday, though, I'm going to write back to the people who contacted us with basically the information that's in the handout that Monica gave you, and with instructions to contact us if they think Proctorio really is the solution for them. And then we can talk to them a little bit more about it, show them what the resources are that we have available. If that is the best solution, we can have it turned on in your icon site. We can put those modules that we created to help faculty and students in the site, and we can send you some step-by-step instructions to build your exam, how to do the settings in Proctorio, and step-by-step instructions for reviewing the results. We have those things almost ready.
and keep in mind, the more technology you add to your class unexpectedly, you're also going to have to think about accessible accommodations.
Yeah,
So
this is
just
the
keep that
problem.
in the back too.
This is another problem, again. Like Greg said, student somewhere in the rural Iowa area, there's no internet, I'm going to do that, so.
I live in Williamsburg, and I have friends that live out in the country who come to my house to use my internet because they can't have internet. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's not that those people can't find a solution, maybe they can, but it may not be very convenient for them.
Any other questions? I know we're not giving you the silver bullet. We don't have one either, but.
Everybody's
somebody
like, I
is.
heard you have the answer. I'm like,
Lance, have you heard anything else as you've been out in class at all, other than what we've said?
No, I think you guys are hitting it well. I mean, it's be creative, right? I listened to some of CCOM, right? And those guys, they're stressed. Their instructors are stressed because they're teaching the doctors that are going to be helping us, in the next 10 years. So it's just creative. No idea is too wild. There's a lot of information flowing around from other universities doing creative things. So just, work with us, work with these guys. I even heard an idea today about using Poll Everywhere. So you would start a Zoom session with Poll Everywhere or Top Hat or something like that. You'd have 1 minute to answer the question, and then you move on to the next. And nobody can finish earlier than anybody else. Everybody's got to stay there for that amount of time. So that's kind of a nutty idea. It might work. I don't know. We're just in that kind of stage of the game right now.
But the quizzes will work, right?
Yes,
Yes.
icon quizzes will work. And
Yeah.
and you can use the Respondus Lockdown browser.
Yes, yeah,
Of course,
like
that doesn't-
because I give quiz
Yeah.
anyway, plus my real midterms plus quizzes 10 times per semester.
So when we build exams for our instructors of distance and online courses, we build them in icon quizzes. Yep.
Okay.
That's how we do it. That's how Proctorio
Yeah,
works.
I know how to build my questions.
Just to be clear,
Go ahead.
just to be clear, the number of people taking a quiz in a set period of time will not have an impact.
No, we've got students now, granted, they're not taking them all at the same time, but in Success at Iowa, there's a goodly chunk of freshman students that are in there at the same time, right when it opens May 1st. And there's, 3,000 or 4,000 students. That doesn't mean they're all taking it at the exact same time, but there's a lot that do for that first, right before orientation.
Yeah, also you mentioned that you can separate, right? I mean, you can do 2, 3 different set of questions.
You could randomize questions.
Yep,
have
so
one-
you can put you can put your questions in a bank, and we have that in our instructions too. You can randomly select 8 of these 16 questions kind of thing, and randomize the correct answers in the order they appear.
Just thinking about students who might, like your neighbors that need to come to use internet at your house. Do you know whether, like, there is internet access in public libraries in, like, every county, or you're just thinking about the sort of most extreme case, do we have to worry that there is some student who, without our doing something specifically for them, they're not going to be able to get onto the internet?
So this is a hard question for me because for distance and online courses, we make it clear up front. These are the requirements for you to be successful taking our courses or to complete our online degree programs. So this is a different population for us. You know, the people that come to us, they know early on what's expected to be successful. I mean,
You know, our library, I live in Williamsburg too, and we have really excellent high-speed internet there. And I think if I understood, the librarian did a presentation recently on just this sort of thing, because a lot of senior citizens also need to get access for different reasons to the internet. I think there's something about the state librarian system that requires that local libraries in small towns do have it. I think there will almost always be a way for a student to do it. You'll just have to be prepared for the one student that has a disability, can't leave the house because there's a weather incident and has no, you know, then you'll just have to address that on a case-by-case basis.
So,
Can we require them to go to a public place
Well,
to access internet?
I don't know if you do that or not, especially now.
yeah,
But the other reason that's not a great idea is sometimes that is unstable, and so if the Wi-Fi goes down while they're in the middle of an exam, then what?
this will be part of the first communication you do with your students. I think it was due, March 20th? Is you could say, you know, ahead of coming back from spring break, make sure you have a good internet connection. If you have issues or concerns, please contact me directly, and maybe you can work something else out. But yeah, I don't think you can guarantee that you're going to provide them with a place or to do it.
I mean, you can provide them with suggestions, you know, but to say for sure that
So,
in there.
so then if they just can't, what do we do? I mean, who do we forward them to because they're afraid they're gonna flunk?
It's a department.
Probably DEOs, maybe? I know there's DEOs in the room, sorry. I can't answer that one, that's a policy question.
So there might be like, you know, I've been hearing like pretty much icon quizzes, okay?
You can do those on your phone.
Yeah, but like, so you kind of get this problem with, let's say, merit, where you have a student that's working and doing this on their own, and a group that are, you know, they know there's 20 of their friends that are working in another room doing it together, and so now you have to compete, you know, it's like you can't stop those people, and everybody that's doing it honestly is, you know, is then at a disadvantage as far as grades go. So I'm not sure how to address that when that email comes along, or, you know, and kind of second to that, I mean, how is the university expecting some sort of like grade inflation, I would assume, this semester? I mean, clearly, right? There's going to be some, I think, a few more A's going out when everybody's taking quizzes in large math.
I don't know the answer to that. If they're, I mean,
I think there's another group.
They can't do that, we can't do the conversation about using pass-fail and grade inflation, those are being held in the provost office right now with Tanya Utenholman primarily, associate provost for undergraduate education. So I think there will be more guidance coming out in the next week. I think this week everyone's just reacting, and next week with hopefully fewer people around, it'll get down to some real details.
Yeah, the email that Helena just sent out is that you can't switch it. You cannot, is that right now it says, can we assign SF, SU, or other pass-fail options instead of letter grades, and the answer was no.
There are so many downstream implications of doing that, they're just not going to go there.
Yeah.
I wonder, do we need to?
Yeah. Are there any other
I mean,
media?
one thing that I was going to say is that we have to be consistent. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
one policy for students when I give quiz, you know, I set up all right, but, you know, we should be fair to all of them, otherwise they will complain, you know. So if the internet doesn't work, this doesn't work, you know, it will be a huge mess. So
be a lot of
I think
makeup.
I think the quiz is the best way to go, even it's not our standard.
All right, like I said, and Laura said, we're going to be available for anything you guys need. Next week, we'll all be here to help. So I guess we have some other stuff we can show you. I'm kind of going to gauge the room. we were gonna think about Zoom and Panopto. Is that something you all wanna see? And if so, Michael, do you want? Zoom first,
Zoom.
since that'll be primarily the thing, okay?
Okie dokie. So I guess to start off with, does anybody have any specific questions about Zoom? Or do we want to just run over? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So, we've been planning on how we do discussions and office hours and that through Zoom. And for discussion in particular, we'd like to be able to do breakout rooms where you have to be active host. So can we use the link, how can we use the Lincoln icon where you still have those host functions?
So as long as you're logged in, with your Hawk ID in Zoom, those host functions will come through.
But we won't have the ability to do breakout sessions?
You should, yeah.
We should?
Yep.
Do you wanna demo
As long
that?
as that's
Yeah.
as long as that's enabled in your Zoom profile, then yeah, it should be there.
Then how do we,
Yeah, good, you know,
Yeah.
So I didn't hear the question, but is it a matter of you can have a group session, does they go breakout?
That's what we're making sure that they can, you can do that, but you have to be able to have the host function to trigger a breakout and then groups go back together. But can you do it launching it from within icon? Got it.
Terrible name for that.
So we're gonna do this breakout session for Zoom, and then Monica's gonna come up and talk a little bit about lecture capture recording, and also asynchronous versus synchronous. But remember, we can meet with you individually as well, or come back next week.
So all courses on Icon will have the Zoom link, that's the thing.
Yep, all courses in Icon currently have the Zoom link enabled, so down at the bottom of the navigation bar here, you'll find a link for Zoom. If we do start this meeting here, it should launch our Zoom desktop application. And because I'm logged into Zoom here, you can see that we've got our breakout rooms. From uiowa.zoom.us, you can pre-select breakout rooms. So if you know your students' email addresses, you can assign them, break them out in advance, so you're not having to do it in the moment. It's not something that's currently available from this tool in Icon, but it is available from the website. Does that answer the question, or did you want me to go over?
So pre-assigning is not available through this, but breakout rooms are available.
Yep.
You just have to do it,
Right.
drag it in.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the most graceful interface, but it does work. And if you do want to pre-assign them, if you have a large body of students, that does work.
Once they're in breakout rooms, is there a way to come back
Yep.
as a group?
Yep, you have
And then,
as an instructor, you have a button to bring everybody back in.
but can you bring everybody back in and then go back to your breakout
Yes,
rooms?
yep.
What would be the drive to use Zoom over Panopto?
So if you want it to be more synchronous, so in Panopto there's a webcast function where you can live stream essentially
Wait,
your lecture.
Panopto or Zoom?
In Panopto.
Okay.
In Zoom you can have a meeting where it's more truly live, where students can
Yeah,
provide
then
feedback on the
really
lecture.
fully like rested on their like internet, being
Right.
good, because you gotta have a live video stream as opposed to a recorded one, and it's gotta be at that time.
Right.
And then you're assuming your kids aren't sick, and you're assuming that they're.
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
Okay, so recording would you'd at least be able to, they'd be able to access it whenever,
Yep.
right, as far as lecture, and then be able to at least digest the material from there.
We're
Yep,
talking about Zoom more for discussions, things that you want.
Right, and I think for office hours too, or something like that, right?
Yep, and there is so there's an integration between Zoom and Panopto, where we would basically you would be able to record your meeting in Zoom, and then it would show up in your Panopto account. We're working through the details of getting that together, but
So
not
is there
yet.
any advantage of doing this through here versus a regular Zoom meeting invite that you said you thought?
show up in the course automatically, so the students, you've got a standard location where you can send your students, hey, if you want to get to a Zoom meeting for this course, it'll be in the icon course under this Zoom button.
Because any standard Zoom meeting, you can just record it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And you
All this tool does, it's just an easy way to schedule and disseminate that link.
Just a little easier for them to find. I mean,
Right.
setting up a Zoom session is trivial.
Yep. Okay.
I can also just create the session, multiple sessions, here's the link, put that, post that on a page where they come in and done.
Yep, of course. Yes.
For a novice, if I wanted to add audio, have them looking at a PowerPoint presentation, kind of how would we do that?
So you'll need a microphone. I would recommend a headset microphone if you have one. That'll just make it a little bit easier for the students to hear. Laptop microphones can kind of be a little noisy, but they would work in a pinch. You would have to do something like this, where you're joining the audio from the Zoom meeting, and then you're adding that microphone to your Zoom meeting. Once you've got an audio source added, you can do share screen, and then select whichever screen you want to share. You can also share an application. So we would share this. Now we're sharing this screen, so you can pull up a PowerPoint, pull up a website, pull up really anything.
And are you all aware of the Keep Teaching and Keep Learning sites that have been sent out? Have you all gotten access to that? There's a lot of instructional type of things on those sites. PowerPoint, VoiceOver PowerPoint is one of them. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yep, there's a ton of information out there, and we've got guides up for all of our services in the Office of Teaching, Learning, and Technology. We've got websites up devoted for different guides, things like that. So if you go out to teach.uiowa.edu, there's these links up at the top. If you click on Technology Tools, that'll take you to all the things that we have available. And most of these, so if I go out to Panopto here, we've got a bunch of how-to guides as far as like point-and-click instructions, what to do. And we're also available to help whenever. So call to the help desk, email, whatever. We're happy to help.
Okay. Monica, you're up. Well, she's getting up here. If you just...
Before you step away.
Yes.
So a fear that a lot of faculty have is, once again, we're going to develop, what if you have a large class Zooming? Because I know you have some large courses, so you think that the capacity is there without it crashing.
Yes, absolutely. As far as the platform goes, we're not worried about that going down.
Are there any number of user limits?
Good question. So a standard meeting, so if you just pull it up in your Zoom profile, that's capped at 300 users. If you need to exceed 300 users, reach out to us. We're working on getting licensure for either the large meeting, which is capped at 500, or we can do webinars up to, I believe it's 2,000 people. If there's a need, reach out to us and we'll get something in place.
Is that Panopto Capture, would that be implemented in the large lecture format?
So like from Zoom to Panopto, the integration, or?
Yeah.
It would, so basically what that's doing is it's taking your Zoom meeting and then after the fact pulling that into Panopto.
So that can happen with this type of Zoom or with the large lecture?
Right. And one note with Panopto, I know I mentioned webcasting. If you're intending on having a lecture that's to more than 500-ish people, we just ask that you let us know ahead of time. We want to contact Panopto so that they can pre-scale for that load.
Is that for continuous or asynchronous?
It's kind of a happy medium, so there's about a 40-second delay, 30 to 40 seconds, depending on a couple of things.
Because we're just recording and putting it out there, you don't need to let you guys know? Or?
No, if you're just recording and uploading things to Panopto, we're already ready to handle whatever load you want to put on it. It's just if there's a point load where you've got 500 people hitting one resource, we want to kind of know so we can adapt ahead of time.
Is that the case for anything where you're trying to do something that are synchronized with, say, over 400?
That would be really just Panopto, just because it's video. I mean, Kaltura, I don't think we have anybody set up with live streaming from Kaltura, but that's the same situation. And it's really only that webcasting portion of it. That's really the only time that we're worried about like 500 or 1,000 users jumping on to one thing at a single time.
I don't have 5, but I have 4.
We should be able to do 4.
So if when I'm currently planning for the lecture, whether you do the lecture, the live stream via Zoom, it sounds like I should turn on the recording feature so that if somebody's got a crummy connection, then I can just post those videos.
Yep.
The question is the recording going to be smooth? Is that done locally on the machine that's driving the Zoom session? I think it is.
So there's 2 pieces there. So what we have turned on right now, yes, that's all on your machine, and that'll always be available. The integration between Zoom and Panopto,
Yeah,
that happens with the cloud
that sounds
recording.
like too much trouble.
It's, there's a little bit of, the quality from the local recording should always be,
So that'll have full frame rate and things like that, because it can be jerky when you're going across recording that thing.
yep.
But they can still probably get most of it, so
And you can also run Zoom and Panopto at the same time. So if you wanted to record your screen with Panopto while you're doing a Zoom
But you
meeting.
can just record the Zoom, and I think it just makes an MP4 or something.
Yep. If you are gonna run both, be sure you do a test recording.
Boy, I plan to test well before I do this in front of a live audience.
But it's a lot with running on a system, so just,
Yeah, no, the plan is just to use straight Zoom.
perfect.
One last question. Can you download Panopto recordings? So if a student does want to go to a place where they can get internet, download that,
Yep.
and they go home?
There's
Yeah.
kind of 2 options.
Okay.
So there's an RSS feed, which you could download into like the podcast app
Yep.
in iTunes, whatever. You can also enable downloads right in the Panopto interface.
Okay.
So if you have any questions about that, reach out to us and help desk and we'll. Thank you.
And I'm going to refer any technical questions about Panopto to Michael still. But in my work, I often help, one of my goals is to help instructors ease and become successful in their online teaching. And so over time, I've prepared, put together tips and resources to help them. So the couple of documents that we just passed out, usually when we work with an instructor who's new to teaching online is to kind of decide how they want to present their materials and how they want to hold their class. Questions like, what are the difference between if I do this, do a lecture live or do online teaching in the real time versus pre-recorded and then have asynchronous activities. And so these are quick and the basics differences and I put it in terms of pros and cons, and cons does not mean it is the end of the story. There are usually ways to supplement some of the shortcomings, but there are differences. If you are teaching more like a seminar type of class, then the real-time discussion and collaboration and exchange might be more valuable, but if you are teaching a more concept theory type base that lend themselves better in pre-recorded content, then the pre-recorded format, asynchronous format to create your content might work better for you. So these are resources that you can consider, and I don't know how familiar you are with creating lectures and other assignments. And so if you are planning to record, then there are some things you can do to help stop, help prevent frustrations. I have done a little bit of recording when I, record tutorials and things, and there are a lot of high level of frustrations. When you turn on a microphone and you start recording, you realize you don't like how you sound. There are a lot of, and there are a lot of things that you can have false starts. And so there are things that you can do to help make this less frustrating. Planning ahead, things like always doing tests. Even with our distance and online instructors who, in the middle of creating their course content, will have a session of, oh, my recording has no sound. That could happen even with very experienced users. So these are tips, always test. And it's not just test, is every time you sit down and do a recording, test before, even if you're doing it every day. Tomorrow when you sit down again, test before you start. I don't want to like read through all this. Do you have questions? Do you have things that you are? My question actually to you is, what might be some of the things that might trip you up, that you worry about, that you think you might need the most help with, as far as if you decide to record your content?
Well, you're all pros.
Perfect, it's Friday with Paula.
That makes it easy.
I mean, we do the lecture capture, but usually it's just as a supplement to it. So for me, the biggest part, if I'm entirely online, is to have some video along with it so they get to see the person, and that I have zero experience doing. Are there any kind of tips for how to do that where you can integrate your normal things you would capture with them getting to see you occasionally?
I think with Panopto, you either turn on your webcam or you turn it off. I don't think you can do it in midstream. But one of the tips right on this tip sheet is to chunk your content and do shorter videos. That's one of the key things that makes it also less frustrating, is that you plan to try to do your recording, like a 15-minute equivalent of lecture, and you forgot something in the middle. Do you redo the whole thing? So chunking, making it shorter. So for our online courses, a lot of times instructors would do, not necessarily full-length lectures, but they would start each lesson with a short 1 or 2 minute overview of, with come on, this week we're gonna do this. Last week you did this, and this is how it connects. A brief introduction. And that's also maybe something you can do in this time, in this environment, to help ease your student. They don't see you anymore in classroom, they see emails, they see written things. But it is quick and more casual. You just go into icon and an announcement, turn on the webcam and say, hey, this week we're gonna do this. We have instructors that actually do this every week for online courses, just make short comment, and then there are, some of our journalism classes will bring up real-life examples, and that's the way they will create and increase a more personal connection with their students. Yes, sir.
So do we have a bunch of webcams around campus that we can suddenly ship out to faculty to be able to use for those of us who don't have webcams?
We've purchased some as a department here early next week, so we'll have some to check out. I asked them if they don't have a laptop, or so they were on a desktop.
And I've just noticed some of my instructors, like, especially if they're traveling, sometimes they didn't tell me, but I swear they make their recording in their phone.
I don't even have a cell phone.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. Right.
Old school.
But there are options, and if not, even if you don't have a webcam, if you have a way of inputting audio, even voice audio, and it sometimes may take less time to type things up, because you tend to correct and rewrite, and you just give more in time. And for during this time, I think it might be useful for the students to hear your voice and still feel that connection with you. Some things I don't know for sure that might be useful to you, just to give you a sense of, what do they do in an online course? How do they organize content? How do they distribute things? And just give you a sense of what things might look like. I want to maybe share with you a simple a demo course that sorry, I don't know why I can't maximize this. There we go. So this might be what one of our online course homepages look like. What's important is not so much what it looks like, how things are put together, but with the information on there, we have shortcuts to the most frequently used things, visit things. We have some first steps, and those things may be more useful for students who are brand new at the beginning of the semester. We have instructors who actually swap the homepage through the semester. Every 3 weeks or every unit, they switch it and then stop talking about first step, we talk about this unit and then the exam coming up. So those are options. If you want to look into more about how to do this, how to use the different options for your homepage, the homepage is your landing page for students. That's the first thing students see when they come into the course. For online courses, that's their classroom. That's their bulletin board. That's their homeroom, so to speak. We usually have a brief introduction video, and that can be done, for the whole course, just the beginning, or for each main unit. When there is something important you want to kind of speak to your students face-to-face, that sort of thing. And in our courses, we tend to organize our content in modules, which is probably what a lot of courses do anyway. You kind of follow what's in your syllabus, the activities, things they need to do. So our modules typically include some basic intro level to orient students. Once they get into the content, things may look like a to-do list, really, that you need to watch. You read your textbook, watch recordings, and our instructional designers are big on using action words. Then they get the idea they need to do something. And I think it works. And I'm sure if you need help with how to add things, to use icon, there are a lot of resources. I think actually I'm very grateful that Canvas has really useful and user-friendly documentations compared to way back, if you remember, D2L. So this is just an example of what it looks like and how it might be useful to organize the content now that you might be sending students to icon for everything. Some of the things that might be, if you are changing your real-time discussion, for example, or assignment in the syllabus, and now you're having them come to icon for activities. One thing that is really useful and will probably help save time by reducing the number of emails questions students have is to lay out the directions in more details than you would normally do when you talk to students face-to-face. Because you're in the classroom, you tell students, you do this, do this, do this. Write it down, have it spelled out, then everybody knows. That's part of managing expectations. And so that's something it does require a little more time to plan ahead and put it down, but it will save you a lot of email and confusion. And it's also easy to just tell students, just go look there. And so those are examples of ways to take advantage of some of the interface. You don't have to make things look like this, but organizing information. If you have a lot of information on the same page, use headers, chunks, so students don't skip over them, because they don't like read the whole lot.
Was that a question?
Yes, excuse me.
We're looking at the possibility of recording entire lab procedures on video, and maybe in chunks, 5-minute chunks, possibly interspersed with pictures and data that they need to analyze. How do you think we should do that? Should we edit it so that it's a longer video? Should we have multiple videos that they have to watch in sequence, interspersed with the data that comes out of it? What do you think we should do?
So I think in your scenario, because it's not a typical, recorded lecture where you have one speaker, content that you can present easily on PowerPoint.
There will also be PowerPoints involved.
Right,
It's
yeah.
gonna be
You have a large assortment. So just because we have talked about technology challenges, bandwidth, connection, smaller chunks makes it easier for students to, address one, watch one thing at a time. Whether you connect it all together in the end, that's up to you. But you probably ended up having to create chunks.
So if we had a module and then had multiple videos, video 1, video 2, data 1.
Like your lab, conclusion or something like that.
Because in life, we have that module split up by watch, read, and submit.
Right.
Right, so that's one possibility. Another possibility, and other instructors who may want to interact and add, to present their content in a more continuous or fashion. Maybe they have multiple pieces that connect and they want to be able to add narratives in between, how to connect them. So they, instead of all these links, the links are the shortest, quickest, easiest way. You can create a page and then add these videos into the page, and then you can add your narratives or add your commentaries into a page, so that's a possibility. But I think in your case, maybe consulting with someone with more instructional design expertise to help sort out your content, your goals, because they usually look at what are the goals, what are the objectives, and what are the outcomes that you want to, that needs to come out of that. And there might be more than one way to do it, but we want to make sure whatever method we recommend meets your need for those objectives.
Related to that, could you set up requirements within a module so that you have to go in a linear fashion, you have to at least click this link, and then you click this link, and then click this file in that order?
Yes, so,
is that feasible to solve that sort of problem, at least at some level?
it could be, if it's important that they go through it in order. So I think in each module, you can add, is that in requirements? Student must go through requirements in sequential order. You can also do something, so you can also set other requirements, like there is a quiz in this, or survey in this module. Once you make that a requirement, you go to the next module and make the completion of this module a prerequisite. That way, the next module is locked until they completed the requirement in this one. So there are some options for conditional release items to students. They are not as granular or as specific as the old system. The old systems can have a lot of very different things, but this is all done in modules.
And I would be careful doing that, just because you don't know what internet speed students have. So if you're requiring a video and they can't get that video to work, they're stuck. So I just think about that a little bit before you kind of go hog wild with putting a lot on.
Work in terms of, you put a link to a Panopto video, they click on that link, if they click on it, they should be able to move on, is that right?
It depends on how you set it up. If you set it up, you could set it up as an assignment, so then they have to complete it.
Complete the coordinate video.
I wouldn't go down that road. I would do.
Simple, remember,
Yeah.
simple. We're trying to get,
I
yeah.
agree, yeah.
But part of this is addressing a question, what's this technique, or where was the stopping point? You need them to actually look at the video and not just be random.
Well, you can put quizzes in Panopto videos as well. So you can, yep.
Really?
Yeah, you can ask questions, and Michael, is it like you can connect it with Gradebook yet?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's possible, or it can just be ways to prompt students to make sure they're still paying attention. But it's possible, and there are documentations and tutorials on how to do that.
So if you want us to do a follow-up, we are more than happy to do that virtually. You should be getting an email, if you haven't already, from, I think it's from class administration, about virtual hours that we're going to have starting on Monday. We're going to be open 10 to 3 virtually. But if you decide as departments you want us to do something individually with your department, we're more than happy to do that. Just contact us and we can do a Zoom session with just your department with your specific questions.
And we also have 3 studios in our building. It can be hard to get into them, but I think we're going to be putting fewer classes online right now and addressing more of these needs. So contact us if we can fit you in, we will, especially for what you were describing with creating a media. I mean, I think it'd really be valuable for you to talk to Mark or Jacqueline and one of our designers. I think they can really help set things up for you in a way that makes sense and is doable.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll send a follow-up email if you've signed in that you were here. We'll send you all the documents in Word documents in case you want to send them out to other colleagues that aren't here. Have a good weekend.